If you have intercourse outside of your fertile window, can you still get pregnant? And if you take a plan B at this time, will it still work? That's what we're going to cover. So the plan B working is going to depend on where you are in your cycle, but the short answer is if you're outside of your fertile window, then no, you technically cannot get pregnant. But there's some things to do with this, so pay attention. So we're using a 28-day cycle because it's easier. We have day 1, day 14, which is our ovulation day, and day 28. Remember, day 14 is not always your ovulation day, and your cycle might not always be 28 days. It could definitely be something else. So your fertile window consists of 6 days because we have the day of ovulation, and then we have 5 days before them because sperm can live up to 5 days in cervical quality mucus. So if you have intercourse here, you could technically get pregnant here, even though you did not have intercourse on this day. So depending on when you ovulate on day 14, I'd probably give yourself an extra day, and then you'd be fine from this day up until you get your period, because you're not going to ovulate again over here. So let's say you took a plan B on day 20. Technically, that plan B isn't going to do anything because you have already ovulated and you actually can't get pregnant anyways. So you didn't actually need to take the plan B anyways. But this is where the problems happen. This is ovulation, and technically it's quite hard to figure out what day you've precisely ovulated on. But there's different biomarkers that your body gives you to figure this out. So leading up to this day, with these fertile window days, your body will likely start making an increasing amount of cervical mucus or cervical fluid. And you might kind of start seeing kind of more of like a white. It might start off like kind of tacky, and it's going to increase into more fluid. So you're just going to start feeling a little bit more moist over here, and then we're going to increase into might be like stretchy, egg white cervical quality mucus. So we have stretchy, it's clear, it's lubricative, that's quite a bit, and might just be wet for you, just more like a watery kind of sense. This really depends on like your reproductive age. It depends on some other factors as well, but this is generally what it's like. This is the method I use as my birth control as well. So I look at my cervical quality mucus, and then I also track my temperature, because once ovulation occurs, our temperature is going to raise, and you can actually notice that raise in temperature. So once I pinpoint that, I wait 1, 2, 3 days. So on the 18th, I'd say to myself, we are free to go until I get my period. And I wait those 3 extra days because when you're tracking using these types of biomarkers, you just want a few extra days to kind of give yourself some time just to make sure that that egg has actually dissolved. A lot of times you guys are saying that your app has told you that you're ovulating. It says you're in your fertile window, and you're like, oh, I took it right at ovulation. Am I okay? So the problem with apps is that it's actually not connected to your body. So it really doesn't know if you are ovulating or in your fertile window at all. It's just using previous period history to kind of come up with a calendar that makes sense for you. So if you're a regular girly, you might notice that your app is right a lot of the time and you do heavily rely on it. But if you're irregular, you might notice that it's often wrong. And even if you are regular, a lot of problems occur when there's like stress in your life. For some reason, your cycle gets pushed. So this could be due to like a diet change, or you get sick, or you gained or lost weight, you've exercised more, anything like that, you've traveled, that can put like a hinder on your cycle. It can make it go faster, make it go slower. So your cycle can change. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't rely on your app to see if you're outside your fertile window or not, because if your app tells you that you have ovulated and you actually haven't yet, that's when pregnancy can occur. So when I say you wouldn't have to take plan B anyways in this cycle, technically that is true because you can't get pregnant, but it's hard to know whether you're actually in the luteal phase or not if you're not using these fertility awareness methods to figure out where you are in your cycle. And if you want to do that, I do recommend reading the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility, or you can find an online coach to help teach you. I'm one as well. I'll make a course at some point, like guiding you through it, and then we can do some one-on-ones just to help you learn it. And I do recommend using at least like 3 cycles to learn these methods before you use it as your means of birth control. So if you are just using your app and you don't know where you are in your cycle, it's hard to rely on that. If you use your cervical mucus to kind of help judge that, it might help a little bit more to figure out where you are. But if you don't know where you are and you don't want to get pregnant, this as a precautionary thing is to just take it. But that is solely up to you and your discretion. Another thing I get really commonly is like, oh, I'm like 1 day before my period and we had intercourse and I took the plan B. Am I going to be okay? Am I pregnant? Likely, like if you have a pretty regular cycle and it's a day before your period and you're getting your period symptoms and everything, likely you are just fine. And just know that if you take it right before your period, it will likely delay your cycle a little bit just due to the hormone in the pill. And another quick fun fact about ovulation day is that when you release this egg, you can actually release another egg within this 24-hour period. And that's sometimes how twins are made. And that kind of has to do with like a genetic thing, and sometimes it just kind of occurs. So again, that is also why we have these kind of days in between, just to be sure. So therefore, throughout this cycle, we're abstaining from sex or using a alternative means of protection 10 days out of the 28-day cycle, and then the other 18 you're free to go.